Hi, Patrick. Very excited. I've got your third edition of your book here, Boards, really creative title.
I couldn't
I
believe
think
no
it's,
one had that title. It was amazing.
well, why not then? You've captured it. But Patrick, I'd love to hear about what was the sort of the thinking behind writing this book in the first place and behind these new dilemmas. I was thinking about you and what I observe of you. And I know you've worked in private equity earlier in your career. You've been on lots of boards, both for profit and charitable boards. You've done board effectiveness reviews. You're all over the board space. And I was thinking it's a bit like, David Attenborough when he watches the iguana and the snake, and you get even from his voice, you can tell the excitement that he has on watching this. He is an observer of animals. And I feel like, Patrick, you are the observer of people, people in the boardroom, people collectively trying to make decisions together. And the spark in your eye whenever you speak about it, I can tell it comes through in the book as well. But I can tell it gives you great joy. So tell us, what was it like for you writing this book in the first place?
Well, I mean, the germ of the book was going to a really bad board meeting many years ago, and watching, as you say, there were iguanas and there were snakes and there was everything kind of there. But it was a mess, and I was thinking there must be a better way than this. So I started to think about what makes a good board, what makes a good board member, how does a board interact with the executive, how come no one's really trained to do this stuff? So that was really where I got going the idea. The boards book, I can believe someone hadn't got that title. And what I wanted it to be was a sort of useful companion. So it's not a gripping, novel from start to finish. It's something that hopefully you'll have near you that you can refer to when you're thinking about, oh God, the subcommittees are in a mess. How can I sort them out? To bring it to light, I had this sort of simple mathematicians, I love triangles, a view of kind of problem solving around boards, which was purpose, people, and process. Because I thought that if you've got clarity of purpose, people align behind that, you've got the right people working together in the right way, and you've got a good underpinning process, it sort of ought to work. And if it's not working, you've probably got a problem in one or all of the corners of the triangle. So that was kind of the starting point. And then just from experience, I experienced so many different dilemmas uh, over the years. I thought actually that brings it to life because I get turned off by people who just have a grand theory or a book that's sort of an idea for a tenner where, the idea is there and then it's filled out for 100 pages to, there's not really sufficient content. So I wanted something that was sort of rich. So this latest edition, interesting, I took out 11 of the dilemmas, of the 13 dilemmas, and put them free on my website, bordelta.com, to make space for the new things I wanted to say and some new dilemmas. So I hope that people find the new dilemmas are fun. They're certainly topical. And the feedback I've had so far is, people love the DEI or die one, the sort of board pirouetting over what it's going to do about DEI, the acquisition that's
Did
all
they
gone
announce
horribly.
their D&I policy when they go to the US for investment?
Yeah, that's the one.
Should they be
Yeah,
true to who they are, or should they appease these new investors? It's
yeah,
very
and
interesting.
how can they be pragmatically
Mm.
with high integrity? How can they be pragmatic with high integrity? How can they achieve that? Um, and then the one about, the acquisition that's gone all pear-shaped and horribly wrong, and how do you put all that back together is it's really complicated and I think interesting. And then, there's a classic one which has just been enduring and people just time and time again. That's probably the one I get most feedback on is where you've got, a founder group, some PE firms, and a corporate investor, and got off to a cracking start, and then all went horribly wrong. That's been pretty popular. And then the one about next gen boards, Trouble on the Horizon, I think I called it. That's really interesting, dealing with sort of some of the intergenerational challenges that we have.
I liked particularly the one about the bank board, and I'm hearing about particularly, you paint this picture of a pretty catastrophic mess, and lots of board members having quite different perspectives. But then the thing that really jumped out to me was the articulation of how the chair grasps the problem.
Yeah.
takes the right action and moves things forwards. And it's sort of that story, actually, to me, more than anything else, tells me how a chair can add value if they do their job properly. So it's a fantastic dilemma for articulating that.
Yeah, I was pleased with that because I think chair roles, I know that certain are finding it difficult to find people to take on chair roles because of the commitment, the responsibility, all the rest of it. But actually, I found with my chair roles, if you can help a team deliver their potential, it's hugely fulfilling, hugely
Mm.
satisfying. And there will be moments, no matter how good the team is, no matter what the nature of the business is, there will be moments where it all gets a bit tricky. And so you have to be calm, you have to be considered, you have to be considerate. Um,
And put
and
in extra time. And you do
and you have
mention
to,
that.
yeah, you have,
Cancelling plans so that you really think it through.
yeah, and you got to put the work in. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, Patrick, thank you so much. I know for me personally, it is the sort of book where you mentioned some of it, some of it's not a novel. You shouldn't read it all in one sitting, but actually there's a great index so you can look up, a particular subcommittee and think, has he got a bit on that? And then you can just read that when it's really applying to your situation. And I have used it like that, Patrick. But I'd say the dilemmas at the back are a bit more like novelty, bedtime reading. They're great to get into some really quirky situations and how the boards attack them. So, um, to all of you who are watching, I would really recommend having a good read of Patrick's book. We have mentioned before we did a session with Patrick and Rebecca on their book, Five Generations at Work, which I can see in the background as well there, Patrick. But this is Boards, the third edition. Thank you, Patrick, for your time.
my pleasure.